Welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast, a podcast for creatives. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Join me for compelling conversations with artists, actors, authors, musicians, and other creatives about the impact of the creative and fine arts in their lives and our ever-changing world. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast. Today, my guest is my friend and fellow music therapist, Jessica Kuba. She's a board-certified music therapist located in Oregon, and after earning her master's in music therapy from Montclair State, she has spent the past decade exploring the use of music therapy with a variety of populations, including hospice, and as well as with Native American youth. In recent months, she has stepped away from clinical work in order to focus her efforts on a new startup initiative, an online database of printable resources centered on themes of mindfulness, anxiety management, and the creative arts therapies. Through the cultivation of resources designed to support social emotional learning, whole person-centered, and trauma-informed care frameworks, she hopes to increase accessibility to mental health education and learning resources worldwide. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
It is such an honor to be here.
You're so welcome. I'm excited to catch up with you. We're going to get started with who or what inspired you to become a musician and led you to the creative arts.
Well, I guess as a young kid, I was always very musical. I was always whistling and driving my mother crazy. So I think it was kind of intuitive from a young age. And then in third grade, you get to play recorders, right? You remember those plastic recorders. And fourth grade came around and we got to choose which instrument we wanted to play. And I wanted to play the drums so badly. I wanted to be a percussionist, but I thought only boys could play drums. So I ended up choosing the flute because all my friends played the flute. So that was kind of the start of my little musical career. I was never the most diligent practicer, but I always got by, and I loved participating in ensembles and whatnot. And so classical music has always just been, it was a part of my childhood, and I continued on through high school. Then college came around, and I love art. Like, I've always loved art, creating music. So I wanted to be a graphic designer, but everybody was like, oh, you're so talented with music. Why don't you just do that? So I went to school for music education. Ultimately, it wasn't the path for me. I have so much respect for teachers and what they do. But I had a professor ask if I'd ever heard of music therapy. And I said, no, what is that? And it's still a relatively new field, as you know. I asked him about it and I researched a little, and I was like, wow, that sounds really amazing, So that's how I ended up at Montclair State University with you, Tammy. And just kind of delved into music therapy and learning what it was and how to do it, and just kind of fell in love with the work.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And, I can't believe it's been so long since we've been in school together. Like, where has the time gone? And
it's what, 2 years ago?
Yeah. And it's just wonderful to see where everyone has ended up and how they've blossomed in their careers. And you've sort of taken a little bit of a pivot. You're working on, mental health awareness and mindfulness with your company. Would you mind telling the listeners a little bit more about Sunshine Creations?
Yes, I'd love to. I think coming out of a pandemic, it's been kind of a strange couple of years. I worked in music therapy for, about a part of a decade, has it been? And I was working in nursing homes and hospice and whatnot, and loving the work. But I was presented with the opportunity to relocate to Oregon to work at a Native American clinic and residential school. So I actually took that opportunity in February of 2020, drove out here, and then all of a sudden the world shut down. So I had a lot of time to learn about the population that I was working with and to just kind of slow down. And we learned a lot about trauma-informed care and whole person-centered therapies, social emotional learning, and really appealing to the needs of the kids, and how to build a music therapy curriculum around those needs that these kids were experiencing in the middle of a pandemic, and with so much historical trauma and whatnot. So that kind of set me on a new trajectory, because I found myself going to therapy sessions in the morning and like looking online to find the resources that we needed to meet their emotional needs, to help these kids learn to understand themselves better. And it just seems like there was such a fundamental lack of resources. So I was drafting up resource after resource every morning, every night, just trying to build us a solid curriculum. And through that, I began to wonder if these resources would be helpful to other professionals and other individuals. So that's how Sunshine Creation Shop kind of started. I just began creating resources that I felt would help people understand anxiety and learn how to manage their symptoms, learn to recognize their symptoms, mindfulness, relaxation techniques, all of these things, and hopefully helping people.
That's fantastic that you do that. It sounded like it was a challenging time, but you made the best of it and you created some amazing resources. What do you think the future holds, for Sunshine Creation Shop, and what do you think you might want to do in the future, other expansions and goals? If you can talk about that, or is it like top secret?
Only for you, Tammy. Ultimately, I would love to grow this into a large database that would be accessible to people around the world, for education purposes, for use in their own lives. Maybe someone's struggling with anxiety and needs grounding techniques and have worksheets and just pull out whenever they're experiencing anxiety, or for work with patients or with clients that professionals could reference. I'd like to create a database that's accessible worldwide. I've also had the opportunity recently to pair up with a nonprofit based out of Tennessee called Love Learning Music. And if any listeners want to Google them, just Google Love Learning Music, and they're a great organization dedicated to bringing music into children's lives. Their mission is kind of in line with me, so we've paired up to figure out how to bring these resources into more homes and how to make them more accessible to families. So I think I'm just taking it one day at a time and just trying to keep my eye on my mission of, just helping at least one person,
Mm-hmm. That's really fantastic. And I wish you all the best with the future endeavors for Sunshine Creation Shop and where it could lead. So it's always great. It's always great to be able to provide resources where there may not be very many, and to, help populations that definitely need bolstering and things like that. So that sounds like you're doing some really amazing work out there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to pivot a little bit to a fun question. What is one of your favorite foods that you could basically eat all the time?
Oh my gosh, anything. Wow. Ice cream. Is that gross?
Ice cream's always good. Do you have a favorite flavor?
Cookie dough. You know, I've been a cookie dough girl from birth.
Cookie dough, that is such a good one.
But outside of ice cream and pizza and the good things in life, I do enjoy eating healthy and vegetables and that sort of thing.
True, true. Gotta have a balance there, right? I always like to add in a few fun questions, sort of get people in, icebreaker-y type things.
Yeah, definitely. I was not expecting that.
Yeah. So back to some music-related questions. You obviously use quite a bit of instruments in your music therapy work, and of course, as you're pivoting to do more of sunshine creation, are there any instruments that you've always wanted to learn that you have not yet that you'd like to try?
Well, it's interesting just the path that I've taken. I did complete 3 years of music education study in undergrad. And through that, we were afforded the opportunity to study so many instruments. We got to study strings and brass and winds. So I feel like I have had ample opportunity to try all of these instruments. Proficiency wise, I would say I would love to be better on the saxophone. I love the saxophone.
That's cool. Are you like an alto saxophone or a tenor saxophone kind of person?
Well, I did actually in high school. I tried playing the tenor saxophone, and it was the most ridiculous thing. I was this little 5 foot, 100 pound high schooler carrying around this tenor saxophone. So, given the chance to do it again, I would probably go alto.
Cool. Yeah, I actually got a music education degree as well before jumping to music therapy. And those brass instruments and woodwind instruments were so hard.
I know.
Like everybody just makes it look so easy.
Well, likewise, you strings friends. I don't know. I could never get the grasp of just finding the note on the string. It's a skill.
Yeah. It certainly takes a lot of like muscle memory, that's for sure. Yeah, they all have their own challenges.
Yeah.
What is a book that you would recommend for anyone who might want to work on mindfulness or self-care or anything in that realm?
I would say The Body Keeps the Score is a great book. It's a little intense though.
It's thick.
Yeah, I'm listening to it on Audible. I don't know that I can recommend any book. I think The Body Keeps the Score is really important for understanding trauma and how it affects the individual. There's another great book that I haven't quite finished yet, but it's called Codependent No More. And it's on attachment and codependence, like in our relationships. And I think that's a really interesting book for understanding yourself as an individual and how you relate to others. And then beyond that, for mindfulness, I'm so big on all those journals out there with gratitude prompts and books that you can complete yourself. I think mindfulness is an internal process. I think the more time you spend with your thoughts and observing your surroundings, like taking time to slow down. So I don't know that I could recommend any specific literature on mindfulness, but I think a book with empty pages is the best tool for mindfulness.
Yeah. I love that idea, because having, a blank journal or like you said, a workbook of some kind can help someone because they're not sort of barricaded with a structure of a specific book. Like if they wanted a specific book, they could go out and get it. But then there's that freedom of the blank page.
Yeah. And it can be intimidating sometimes, but that's the whole purpose of mindfulness, is that journey.
So In terms of journeys in the creative process, what is your favorite and least favorite part of the creative process?
Oh gosh, favorite and least favorite. I think the beginning and the end are my least favorite, right? Because at the beginning, your head is swirling with ideas and you can't get them down fast enough. And you're like, oh, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And it's always like a little bit overwhelming.
Mhm.
And then at the end, once you've gone through the creative process, you get to the end, and then it's never quite good enough. And I could spend forever in that space just revising and fixing and adding and tweaking. So I think the beginning and the end are my least favorite, but also my favorite because there's so much potential. And then there's also that sense of like it's completed. You've successfully put down your thoughts, and everything that you've kind of created in your head is finally down. So you have a finished product.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know, but there's something about creating when you are able to just really find the headspace and you're just fully engaged in the creative process and you're kind of just zoned out, you know? I don't know. That's the sweet spot for me.
Yeah,
I could live in that space forever.
definitely. I hear you about finding that sweet spot and you're just like in the zone. It's magical when that happens.
It is. It really is.
In terms of creating, do you like to try to spend a little bit of time every day just doing something fun and creative? Is that something that like helps you be like a healthy, mindful professional? Is that your mojo, or are you one of those people who likes to just block out huge sections of time to work on stuff that are fun?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the healthiest thing for me is to be able to experience creating every day. That's just my natural kind of state,
Mhm.
or my natural intuition is to create. But I think realistically, life is so full of demands and adulting is challenging, and like there are just things that need to get done sometimes, and it's hard to justify taking time to create, when it's not doing the laundry and it's not doing the dishes and it's not paying the bills. So I think part of my journey this year has been trying to set aside time to create and to give myself that because I know it's healthy for my soul, but also being realistic about my responsibilities in life and trying to find a balance. So right now I'm in flux. I just moved and starting a new job. So the creativity has taken a backseat, but I'm hoping it'll come back in full force soon.
Understandable. It's always tricky to try and find that balance, especially when the adulting stuff kind of takes over and you're staring at that pile of laundry and you're like, I just want to do something else.
Anything else?
Yes. What is something that you know to be true today that you didn't know a year ago?
Oh, wow. My gosh, I think I am so filled with inspiration. I used to see a lot of boundaries in life, a lot of limitations, a lot of set rules, and this is the way it has to go,
Mhm.
and I think the past year has really just broadened my horizons that literally anything is possible. If you care about something enough and you're passionate and you're willing to put in the work, that life is limitless, and I think we get to choose what we want out of this life, and it's okay whatever we choose. I've had the opportunity to spend the last couple of summers traveling and just climbing really high mountains and like hiking around in Death Valley and at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and I think, yeah, just my perspective on the limitless, or my perspective on life's boundaries has changed
Yeah,
over the past year.
that is fantastic. I can definitely imagine when you're out there facing the elements and you're pushing your physical limits and you're also looking at the beauty of nature, it definitely sort of realigns your compass, so to speak, and clears things out, you know?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And it reminds you of what's important in life too, you know?
Hmm.
So I'm really grateful for all of my experiences the last couple years.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So you were just talking about some of the places that you visited. Is there a place on your bucket list that you have not gone to and you can't wait to visit?
So I was born on the East Coast, right? Raised in Connecticut. I have never gone to Maine.
Hmm,
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. So I am very eager to get back there and do some exploring out there.
that sounds cool. Yeah, I've not explored that part of the East Coast either, but it just looks so beautiful when you see it in pictures.
I know, especially at fall, all of those fall colors. Oh, beautiful. So,
Are there any places overseas that you'd love to visit?
oh my gosh, I'd be happy to go anywhere. I just love exploring different scenic or different sceneries and different cultures. Go to Switzerland or Finland, Netherlands. I had the opportunity to go to Spain in high school, part of our school trip. But I would love to go back to Barcelona. Gosh, so many places.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. So earlier you talked a little bit about how the pandemic sort of provided an opening for you to create some new resources and open up the Sunshine Creation Shop, which basically you saw a need and a barrier and you jumped over it. But I was just curious, did you have any other barriers to reaching where you are in your career, whether it was an internal struggle or external?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think even my path to finding music therapy was very convoluted. It's never been a clear cut answer in my head. It's more so been me following kind of my intuition and just seeing where I end up. In terms of barriers, I think I've had my own struggles with mental health, and I've experienced a lot of close friends struggling with mental health. And I think that has definitely changed my perspective on various topics within mental health. It's changed my understanding of human experience and human need.
Hmm.
So I think seeing others struggling in such an intimate way has kind of propelled me further into this field. I don't see it as a barrier, but more so an inspiration. And then the pandemic hit, obviously, I had just moved across the country and it was a little staggering. It was
Mm.
sort of like a what now situation, but I'm really grateful that my supervisors at my job supported me and advocated for me. And ultimately, it just turned into an opportunity to delve into this new path. I think I think barriers are only barriers if you allow them to be. I think if you look at a barrier and see it as a means of catapulting forward or diverting your path, I think they're not so much barriers. They're almost just something that was meant to be there the whole time, you know, to get you to where you were meant to be. So I've been very fortunate. So grateful for my path.
Yeah, yeah. I really love what you said about sort of reworking your mindset about barriers, because mindset has so much to do with a person reaching or even striving for their potential.
Yeah, it's so true.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's so true. You can let it stop you, or you can say, no way, this is my road. I'm walking on this road, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I really love that. That's definitely something that I wish I had heard that advice in my younger years.
I know, right?
Yeah, yeah. You're so wise.
Oh no. It's just been a long path to learning, you know, and I have pep talks with myself every single day, you know, because I get stumped by the smallest things, you know. Uh, the kitchen floor is dirty again. I can't cope, you know? And then you have to really analyze, is this what's upsetting me? Is something else upsetting me? And it just makes it more manageable, you know? We can
Hmm.
choose to reside in anger, or we can choose to treat anger as a choice, right?
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. I love that. It sounds like you're in a really good place, right now, and you've got, you just recently moved and you've got a lot of great things on the horizon. But if you could fast forward and it's 5 years from now, where do you think you would be? What do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, wow. Um, well, I feel like I've been on the move for a really long time. So I would love to be settled down in 5 years, you know, and work on my personal life more. Family, dog, you know, the important things.
Yeah.
But I would love to still be on this path and working on building up the Sunshine Creation Shop and working with more nonprofits and just bringing mental health resources into homes, bringing awareness of mental health and education on it and mental health. I would love to be an advocate for mental health 5 years from now and really reaching people, you know.
Yeah. That's really fantastic.
Yeah, and hopefully somewhere warm too. Man, Oregon is so chilly.
Yeah. I bet it's beautiful though.
It is. I'm not complaining.
Just wishing for warmer weather though, right?
Yes, just eagerly awaiting summer.
One final question before we go, and this is sort of like the biggie of the show, which is, in your own words, what does it mean to live a creative life?
I have been pondering that question since I first heard you ask it. How many podcast episodes ago? I think every day when you wake up and you set your mind to change one thing for the better, where you change or modify like one thing, it could be a creative thought, or it could be art, or it could be a creative solution to something at work. I think every day where you're waking up and you're changing something in your environment or in your world, I think that's living a creative lifestyle.
I like that a lot.
I've never heard you answer that question, by the way.
Put me on the spot. That's because I'm the one who makes the questions, not answers the questions. No, but
Touche.
right. But actually, that is such a good question that I've actually not really pondered my own answer, because I'm just so captivated by what the guests have to say, because everyone has such a unique, authentic answer that it's like every answer is the right answer,
I know, I know. I know, I love listening. All your guests have such different answers, different perspectives. It's
Mhm.
very cool.
Yes. I will have to formulate one at some point, I think.
I would enjoy that.
I'll get back to you on that.
All right. 3 to 5 business days.
That's right. Excellent. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a delight to catch up with you and to get to know you better in this new chapter of your life.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I think what you're doing is so great.
Thank you so much. And listeners, please check the show notes and click on the links to find more about Jessica and the Sunshine Creation Shop and all of the wonderful work that she is doing for people regarding mental health and mental health awareness. And as always, keep listening. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like the show? Have a question? Stop by the Facebook and Instagram pages. Links are in the show notes, or search for Creative Piecemeal Podcast on social media and click follow for all the latest.